We just watched one of the best episodes of Monday Night Raw since the Netflix era, and honestly, it might be the best episode of Monday Night Raw since we have entered what is considered WrestleMania season. Part of that may be because the European shows and the European crowds kind of got screwed over by booking, but that was talked about in a previous video. We don't have to cover that again. I gave you guys the opportunity on X and on the post section here on YouTube to give me your thoughts on what you thought of this show so that we could talk about it here in this video. So if you want to be in the next video, follow me on X or subscribe here on YouTube and be on the lookout after show. Jey Uso did what needed to be done. Jey Uso flipped the switch. I've had this theory for a while that Jey is using the yeeting as a coping mechanism. He's been on his own, a whole year of just me, Us, and had to survive without the help of the bloodline that became all he knew. He broke out of that, went on that journey of rediscovering himself. Now he was truly reminded of who he was. And now he's got to crash out and go get it. I called it at the Rumble. I'll say it again. Jey Uso wins at Mania in one of his best matches today. Jey can frickin' wrestle. I hate that narrative. Anyway, great freaking show. Jey Uso was absolutely one of the standout performances in this show. In two promos where you had two people contributing to a storyline in the ring, but only one of them truly needed to actually deliver. The other one we're talking about is obviously Seth Rollins, but we'll get to that. Going into this episode of Monday Night Raw, a lot of us agreed that Jey Uso could not show up to this show with his standard gimmick of the yeeting and the partying, and that attitude just was not going to fit after what we witnessed last week. We saw one of the most brutal attacks in recent memory of Gunther against Jimmy, bleeding out all over the mat while Jey is tied helplessly to a rope. For some reason, nobody untying him, but that's beside the point. He witnessed his brother get absolutely brutally destroyed right in front of his eyes, and he wasn't able to do anything about it. So naturally, it would be weird if he showed up the very next week doing the "it's just me" Us yeeting on the table, high-fiving Pat McAfee. It just wouldn't have worked. I got a little bit worried when he was coming through the crowd, but they did exactly what I feel like a lot of us were hoping for. He came in deadpan in the face and totally serious. He did still have the yeet glasses, but he didn't have any extra color on. He did not have a yeet shirt on. He just had his chain, a black sleeveless, and he just straight up walked to the ring serious as hell. But that was the easy part. What came next was probably the best performance that I have seen from Jey Uso since I've started watching him. This was the right-hand man that I had grown to love when I was first watching Jey Uso a couple of years ago. This was the Jey that could kick it into a serious gear whenever his family was in danger or when he was feuding with his family. This was a side of Jey that felt like it was true to himself, and it actually felt like a character that had purpose, a character that actually was digging deep into a deep emotion inside themselves. Sometimes that version of a character is really hard to see when they have almost a comedy gimmick. I wouldn't say the yeeting is necessarily comedy, but it's very gimmicky and it's very like flashy and for the fans and for the kids. Sometimes that style, or a lot of times that style, can affect any sort of character and their ability to be taken seriously. This is very similar to how certain characters get typecasted in certain movies. But if you watch a lot of movies, you may also notice that sometimes that typecasted character breaks out in a new film and gives some sort of performance that really separates them and shows them the range that they have. Now, I'm not saying this is the first time Jey has ever done something like this, but this was such a juxtaposition of what he normally does that it was kind of jarring. I'm glad he didn't go full crash out mode and start like crying on the mic or anything. Not that there's not a place for that sort of emotion, but there needed to be a controlled anger here. I really feel like it needed to be clear that he wasn't just angry. He needed to be showing that he was actually in full control of himself and that he was going to be the one to choose to unleash what he had inside him when he wanted to, and not necessarily just have it get baited out of him in the middle of an episode of Monday Night Raw. The only thing that didn't really work for this promo was the crowd. And the crowd, I feel like, was solid in general throughout the entire night. But in this particular segment, they just were not reading the room. He was saying things like, my brother's in the hospital, Oos. Yeet. What? The crowd yeeting after very serious lines and things that were really trying to deliver how heavy this situation was awkward. And I wonder if like some of the people who were yeeting weren't really paying attention to what he's saying, because there was a couple times Jey was making it very clear, hey, crowd, chill, like no yeet right now. This is serious. I want to get a message across. And they kept doing it. That was kind of a bummer, but it did feel like he switched up his cadence a bit to not allow such an easy spot for the yeets to come in. So at least there's that. Now, what has this done for the feud? I feel like it has kicked it into a gear that I really, even as someone who has been there supporting this feud, I didn't think that you could get to this gear. I thought we were just going to be riding this and this was just going to be a solid mid-card feel, which is not what you want when you're talking about your heavyweight title. But it did sort of feel like that's what we were going to have to settle for, was just no more than what we were getting when we saw Jey going after Braun Breaker for the IC title. This kicked it into a mode that actually got me invested in not just the match anymore and not just rooting for Jey to get his first main title, but I'm actually invested in the story now. And I know I'm giving a lot of credit to Jey here because honestly, he did most of the heavy lifting here, almost all of it, but Gunther did do his part. Sometimes in acting in general, the person that is not doing the speaking still needs to be completely on. Just because one person is speaking doesn't mean that that's who everybody is looking at. Gunther's expression started from laughing in his face, this big shit-eating grin that he normally has, and it slowly faded throughout that promo. And it gave us the signal that Gunther was listening. He wasn't just laughing in his face, he was listening to every word, and something was clicking in Gunther's brain that was kind of telling him, hey, I may have woken up a beast. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that Gunther is now scared of Jey. I don't think that fits Gunther's character, but I do think Gunther is either a little bit surprised by what he saw out of Jey, or he's just ready to also kick it into a serious mode and not take Jey lightly. I don't know what this is going to mean for the WrestleMania 41 match. I really don't know if they're going to pull off the banger that I feel like you need to pull off to follow a performance like this. But what I do believe is that this performance on its own is enough to make it so some of those slow, hard-hitting moments where we can hear Gunther yelling at Jey and chopping him just to absolute hell, those loud chops that usually come in every single Gunther match, they're going to feel more impactful. This is no longer the underdog Jey going after Gunther. This is now pride for the family. And I think this is exactly what it needed. And I hope that more people are going to be behind this. This match obviously isn't going to get a main event spot, but at this point after this performance, I do believe that if we didn't have the Roman, Punk, and Seth triple threat that was obviously taking night one, I think this match could now have taken that night one spot and been justified as a main event. But that triple threat is just too huge with too big of names. It just doesn't stand a chance. But if it needed to take that spot, I am now all in that this could actually main event night one if for some reason it needed to take that spot. I think Seth is underused on the mic. Not underrated, but underused. He delivered, in my opinion, one of the best promos this year. I need to see more of him giving logical and put together promos like this more often instead of cackling and angry. I know I can't get that every time, but at least more often. So this was the other incredible performance on the microphone that we had tonight. And it's awesome that we got both of these in one night. This is a version of Seth Rollins that reminds me why he is my favorite wrestler. I'm a promo guy. I'm a story guy. I love the in-ring stuff as well, but when it comes to getting me emotionally invested in a story and in a match before it happens, this is the stuff I lock into. Seth Rollins has cut promos like this since I've started watching in the last couple of years. The other two that come to mind that really brought this level of investment out of me was after Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble and Seth tried to convince him to challenge him, and he really did make a solid case for him to come after the heavyweight title instead of Roman. The other one being when he told Cody that he would be his shield against Roman, and that's when the tag team was happening. Do you realize how good you have to be on the microphone to spend that long in the ring with just Paul Heyman, and you're the one doing all of the talking, and you're the one making this an excellent segment? Geez, I completely agree that this is one of the best performances that I have gotten to personally see from Seth, and once again, it kicked this story not just in a new gear, but it turned a new page in this chapter. Seth did exactly what he needed to do to deliver his message, really didn't say any lies, by the way, when he was trying to say that Roman really was never there for Paul, it was always the other way around, and did exactly what he needed to do to bait a reaction out of CM Punk, which apparently worked perfectly. And then before he was going to stomp Paul after he had already stomped Punk, Seth seems to intentionally miss the stomp on Paul, pauses, and tells Heyman that he now owes him a favor. Now, I have seen some rumors that people believe that this means that this WrestleMania is going to end with Paul walking out of WrestleMania in support of Seth and aligning with Seth. I don't know if I buy into that, but man, I saw this rumor floating around before this episode, and I thought there was a 0% chance, but now that I've seen this segment, that 0% is now non-zero. I don't know how much I think it goes up, but you have definitely opened the path to make this even possible. Seth getting so angry at the fact that CM Punk is main eventing WrestleMania that he's changed completely to this calm killer is amazing character work for him. Tonight, he delivered easily the best promo leading up to WrestleMania from anyone. It's crazy that Jey probably had the best promo leading up to WrestleMania until about an hour later when Seth picked up the mic. It's nuts. I do agree that it's really cool to see that Seth seems to be seeing this slip away from him. The idea that he was going to make sure that there was no chance that CM Punk was going to main event. I mean, who knows what the favor could be? I mean, remember how everybody was saying the favor was going to be from Punk, that he would main event? What if Seth somehow gets Paul to do the opposite? This is a wild. This isn't even really a theory, but it's just kind of a fun thought. What if Seth is so hell-bent on ruining it for Punk as well that he's like, yeah, Paul, pull some strings and get us out of the main event. Put us in the mid-card or something. I don't know. Something stupid, but I have no idea. The theory crafting that we're going to have to come up with for Seth's favor, I don't even know where to start. We don't have that much time, so I guess we'll see. That might have been the best Braun Breaker spear I've seen so far. Dude, that was insane. That, like, I've never seen someone do a full somersault in the middle of a spear. I hope Carlito is okay. I saw some people saying in the chat that he looked like he might have actually been hurt. I have no idea. I didn't catch any of that, but Braun Breaker is like taking the spear from everyone. He is doing it so well and to such a high level that it just looks so powerful that he's kind of ruining the spear for everyone else. I mean, I'm not telling him to stop. It's great that he's making such a common move turn into something that you associate with him now. I just think, dude, that was nuts. I do hope Carlito's okay. Dominik has been getting more positive crowd reactions lately. How long until they have to turn him? Well, that's just it. You just said it. I mean, he's already getting the positive reactions. They didn't have to turn Rhea, right? She just had the support as a heel, and she was kind of a tweener. So I think he's already kind of entering this tweener phase because he's not really feuding with people that everybody loves as a really strong baby face. I don't feel like, anyway. He's feuding with people that the crowd feels like they can get away with rooting against temporarily because they just love Dom's character so much. So I think you can give him this tweener heel run because people they're liking Liv now too. Like it's kind of crazy how much that dynamic has changed now that they've pulled the Liv and Rhea story away from each other and they've gotten to do their own thing. They're getting their own separate cheering now. It's like they're all tweeners, and it's either that or people just really like heels. I think Dom could go on a run. I don't think he's got to turn face to do it. I was surprised how good the show was, even without any substantial Cena Rhodes stuff. Mania's looking pretty solid right now. Dude, it did not even occur to me that we just had a Monday Night Raw without Cena or Cody until I just read that. It's kind of insane, right? But that's awesome. It's awesome to think that your main event, your night 2 main event, did not need to be here this week, and we got a pretty damn good show with other matches, other storylines that got to heat up and get to their next chapter. Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because it didn't even occur to me that we had such a good show without those big names. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Lyra versus Bayley started out kind of slow and clumsy, but man, did it heat up into a banger by the end of the match. I love the finish, very creative reversal of the Rose Plant. Man, Bayley's one of my favorite wrestlers. I don't like the Rose Plant, but don't change just for me. Change because everyone else hates it too. I kid, but the match was really good. That one heated up. I was thinking the whole time that we needed something to happen between these two because we have this weird dynamic where these two are going to be in a tag match, in a group gauntlet match this Friday on SmackDown. So I thought it would be interesting if they had something weird happen where they got angry at each other to make that dynamic be a little bit more interesting. Like, can they work together? But instead, they just put on a really good banger. They took some nasty bumps that are, bumps that I wouldn't expect these types of wrestlers to take this close to WrestleMania. And I did like the finish. I was rooting for Bayley to win, but we did get a little bit of a teaser afterwards where Bayley was kind of hesitating to show good sportsmanship. And then she did it. So maybe this is a sign that we're going to get heel Bayley back. I think that was so far my favorite version that I've seen of Bayley, her being a heel. So if this is a tease to get back into that, I'm all for it. I am curious what this is going to mean for Lyra and her championship going into WrestleMania. I wonder if we're even going to see that title on WrestleMania other than like maybe in a group match. Imagine Paul Heyman joins Seth at WrestleMania and we see him in droopy suits and sunglasses. I don't know how we get to this storyline if it does end up happening. I know Seth kind of opened the door with somehow adding like Favor 2.0 to the storyline, but if you guys have any ideas of how we'd get there, I would love to read them. But this would be funny if he started dressing like Seth. That'd be good. Penta playing tribute to WCW legend Glacier brought a tear to my eye. I don't know who that is. Let me look this up. Oh yeah, I see it in like the outfit. Do we know if that's actually what he was doing? Was he actually doing a tribute to him? That's pretty cool. I don't know who that is. If you're new here, I haven't been watching as long as you. So that's cool. Awesome. I've only been to a handful of live shows now at this point, but this crowd was the most mixed I've been a part of. Cheers for Dom over Penta, boos for Bianca, pretty split for Bayley/Lyra. Super fun to hear the mix for El Grande Americano. I think the crowd was solid. The crowd, Chili, I'm sorry, buddy. You got to tell me what was going on during the Jey promo. This crowd was just not reading the room and recognizing this was not the time to yeet. It was honestly, that was breaking me more than what chants normally do, because the yeet feels like so unserious that it was kind of like it was taking away from the beginning of that promo. But rest of the night, I was loving how much you guys were split on Bayley and Lyra. The fact that you guys popped for Americano when his music hit, the crowd was solid overall. That was just a weird moment. You could say the Judgment Day has some pent up frustration. Nice. Is it weird that I see Gunther winning as more of a possibility the better that Jey looks? Or maybe it's just the trauma from Roman beating Cody back in WrestleMania 39. I didn't really think about that. I guess like the more he looks good leading up to it, I guess you could make that, but it's not like he's being made to look good and he's winning matches. I think he's just being built up to be more believable. Honestly, it could just be some damage control for how people have not been all in on Jey beating Gunther leading up to WrestleMania. So they might just be trying to inject a little more belief in the guy before we actually get there. Penta and Dom have great chemistry together in the ring. I desperately want to see a rivalry between them in the future. Okay, I love Penta. I think he's been spectacular since joining the WWE, and honestly, obviously before that too. But I'm just saying, Dom seems to have great chemistry with just about everybody he's in the ring with. I'll just throw out a little bit of a theory. I think there is big plans for Dom, and I think he's getting a lot of practice against main eventers, maybe for that purpose. At this point, I've been to a pretty fair amount of live shows in the last couple years. Not just these SmackDowns and Raws, but I've been to some of the house shows as well. I'm telling you, if they're both in the building, the main event for so many of these, especially the dark matches that are after shows back when they were doing like a bunch of 2-hour shows instead of the current 3, it was always Dom versus Cody. Now, I know the big part of that is the biggest babyface, the biggest heel, but the man's getting a lot of main event caliber practice. I'm just saying, if I'm seeing them in person put that matchup together several times, imagine how much practice they've had together across the entire world at this point. Just put it in the back of your mind. I'm not telling you he's about to be a main eventer by tomorrow. I'm just saying, I think they've got plans for Dom, and I don't think it's down here. I think it might be up here. They actively ruined my viewing experience for the Raw Tag title match by having Hinchcliffe, or whatever he's called. I need more of pissed off EO. Yeah, okay, so I know there's a lot of reasons not to like that guy, the comedian who was at the desk or whatever. I know there's a lot of people who are not a fan of his whatsoever, but even just to take the fact of who he was out of it, I think putting any like comedian or anyone who's not going to be taking the match seriously is honestly, it's an L in just about every scenario, but especially in a title switch situation or a potential title switch situation. Someone pointed it out during the stream that they felt like there's no chance we're going to get a title change with this dude just making weird comments on the commentary desk like during that match. It made me feel like the WWE is not really taking this match very seriously, so why should I? I also want more Io Sky. Honestly, I did love the opener. I know there's not much to talk about on it because yeah, they signed their contract, but nothing really happened that we didn't already see coming. But I will mention that I'm surprised that Bianca Belair is still getting booed. I thought maybe it was just a weird thing going on in Europe, but the crowd is actively booing Bianca and cheering for Rhea when it's very clear in the story and through their actions, Rhea Ripley is supposed to be the heel here, and the crowd's just like, no, we really like Rhea, and since Bianca is saying things anti-Rhea, we're gonna boo Bianca. And then of course Io's getting all the love because they're both picking on her. I didn't expect Bianca to be the one that comes out looking like the heel in this. I don't know, that's surprising to me. If you watched this much of the video, I really would appreciate it if you liked it. Maybe drop a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to keep talking with you about wrestling over in the Discord. I'm in there, and so are a bunch of other people talking about wrestling 24 hours a day. You can be a fan of New Japan, AEW, WWE, or anything in between and join that Discord. No tribalism, just loving wrestling as a community. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way through. Thank you to the patrons that are flying up the screen. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.